Home language is the language that a learner thinks and communicates in. It is therefore essential that the basic skills and competencies are developed in the home language, as this will affect all of their subjects. Home language in first additional language doesn't refer to the language itself, but rather the skill level of each. In first additional language, the learners will cover the basic skills, whereas in home language, the learner should not only be able to have these basic skills and competencies, but be able to do so much more, like express themselves in both writing and in conversation. There are 4 sections to home language: listening and speaking, reading and viewing, writing and presenting, and then language structure and conventions. And this all needs to be completed in 4.5 hours per week. Now, what should we be achieving in home language teaching? Well, the first is we need the development of necessary language skills for academic learning in other subjects. We also need to get the learners to be able to listen, speak, read, and write and present the language confidently. Learners need the ability to communicate effectively and appropriately to a specific audience. And we need to enable the learners to form opinions and give valid reasons, both verbally and in written form. Learners should be able to express their emotions and their experience. But most importantly, you want to develop this ability in the learners to critically and creatively think and form opinions. And in order to achieve these, we have to look at the way we're teaching. What are we focusing on? Are we focused on the important aspects? And the first thing that's really important for us to remember is why grammar is so important. Grammar is the foundation of language and how it's structured, and therefore directly affects the ability to express ourselves. So if learners don't have that strong grammar basis, they're not able to express themselves properly. The other aspect is to make sure we guide our learners in their written work. From a young age, we should be teaching our learners to plan or map their work before they begin. They must then write a rough draft. After that draft, go over it and edit their draft. Revise and re-edit their work. Proofread their work a final time before handing it in, and then emphasize the importance of presenting their work in a legible manner. This should be done for all written work that the learners hand in, for every piece of writing from a young age. And then poetry is something learners struggle with. And it's important for us to ensure that the learners have a full understanding of the aspects of analyzing a poem and teach them about poetry and not just the poem that they're studying at the time. Another aspect is literature, and learners really struggle with literature. And we use the 4 B's to remind us that teaching literacy is not an easy task, but it is near impossible to teach it without the involvement and the participation of the learners. The aim of literature is to draw the learners into the text and to help develop their skills and encourage that thoughtful interpretation and comments that comes from the learners. Now, how do we do this? There are 4 key words that we can use when teaching, and the first one for us to remember is begin. Introduce the text to the class, discuss the title, the front page, or the pictures on the cover or page, and make predictions about the book. It's so important to create an interest in the text from the beginning. In the case of a set workbook, maybe have a quick recap from the previous reading and highlight the key elements. The next is the basic reading stage. Try reading most of the text in the class without interruptions, as you want the learners to have a clear and basic understanding of the text. Once you've done the basic reading, you can then go beyond, and this is the most important stage. Here the class will begin to delve deeper into the text and look for meaning. It's crucial to look for the use of language and try and understand what image the writer is trying to produce, and of course why. Look at word choice and what certain colors represent. Are there symbols being used? What do they mean? Look at the sentence structure, paragraphing, and then of course the layout of the poems. The 4th stage is broadening. Any writing tasks must be closely linked to the study of the literary text. The purpose of extending the learner's interpretation must be clear and have a benefit. Remember that interpretation is when someone actively seeks for what is meaningful to themselves. Therefore, there is no right or wrong answer, and we have to make sure the learners understand this and are able to give their own opinions. And what we need to remember most in teaching English home language is that learners must develop the basic interpersonal communication skills and cognitive academic skills. But even more importantly, this level of teaching should provide the learner with the ability to analyze on an abstract level for a better understanding of the world. But most importantly, we've got to instill a love for the language.